for the individual basis. We believe that people should be equal at the starting line, not at the finish. No conservatives in history would be Edmund Burke, Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan, Ellen G. White, and Dr. Carson.
Thank you so much for that. Libertarians, what does it mean to you?
Basically, libertarians stand for, limited government and maximum personal freedoms. What that means is that we are traditionally conservative in a sense that we represent limited government, smaller government, and we are socially liberal, meaning that we're more tolerant towards different people to live the way that they believe is necessary for them.
Great. Liberals.
Okay, so say you leave college and you come up with the best idea ever for a new company. You make a business, you make billions, you become a billionaire. The real deal with that is you didn't get there all on your own. If you had a factory and you moved your product all across the country, you moved it on the roads that everyone else paid for. Your workers were educated by everybody else. You're kept safe by the police and fire that everyone else paid for. And you were protected from marauding bands, from the warriors that they all paid for. So you can keep on a big chunk of that, but in the end, you need to give some back to the next guys so we can have a chance.
Thank you so much. So let me let you know how this will work. We're going to spend the first 25 minutes with parties answering the questions, and then at about 7 o'clock, we're going to open it up to those of you in the audience, and you all can ask your questions. So the first question I want to ask for the conservatives, we're going to start with the conservatives, is what should the government's role be in regards to marriage?
Okay, so as conservatives, we believe that government's role on marriage is defined as marriage between man and woman as it's been defined in religious standpoints. Now, if two people of the same sex want to get married, by definition, yes, we will allow it. However, at the same time, it should not necessarily be considered marriage because marriage is between man and woman. So, if you want to call it a domestic partnership, okay, let's roll with that. But it's not marriage. We deal with that.
Great. Libertarians?
Okay, from the federal government standpoint, the Constitution says absolutely nothing about marriage, and therefore the federal government should have absolutely no jurisdiction over marriage. It's none of my business who you want to get married to. It's none of your business who I want to get married to.
Thank you. Liberals?
The government has a natural interest in marriage as far as legal purposes go. So, because obviously a situation of a married couple is different from single persons. And ideally, we could treat, we have civil unions for the government and marriages for religious, but there's so many statutory provisions now that, with this Congress, it's just so much easier just to legalize gay marriage. It's just simple that way.
All right. Are there any more comments on this question?
Just to differentiate ourselves between libertarians and liberals, whereas there are those provisions, like the liberals said, the libertarian standpoint is that government shouldn't even have those provisions in the first place. The government should be completely absent from the marriage process. Marriage is a contract between two individuals, and so the government shouldn't really be involved in that specific contract.
All right. Anything else?
And just to clarify, those provisions are like tax purposes, so married couples get certain tax benefits, and hospital visiting privileges, and things like that. So basically, any area the law has a hand in, as it is now, they will treat a married couple differently than a single person.
Yeah. One of the main reasons why conservatives stand against the legalization of gay marriage is because typically the tax benefits that they're referring to are given to people to raise children, and that is why conservatives stand in that position.
So gay people can't have children. take drugs to know that we waste a lot of money on drug enforcement. We're putting people in jail for minor crimes, and it's hugely disproportionate for minorities compared to Lindsay Lohan, who just has to pick up some trash and she's back in her house. Places like Colorado and Washington, where pot is legal now, there's not necessarily a huge influx of drugs, and however, there is a huge influx in the money saved in enforcement, which is being able to be allocated to other places, in addition to all the extra money you can get from taxes.
Going off of the Constitution, the federal government has absolutely no business being involved in whether you can possess or use drugs or not. It doesn't say anything about drugs.
And that being said, you own your body, not the government, and so if you choose to harm your body by taking drugs, it shouldn't be the government's say in that. That being said, the war on drugs currently spends a lot of taxpayer money doing no-knock searches, arresting non-violent criminals. Currently, I would say 75% of our prison population, which we have the largest prison population in the world, 75% of those are non-violent drug users. Makes you wonder why are we paying them to be in there when they weren't really harming anyone in the first place.
Conservative.
We concede too much of actually a lot of the wisdom that they put forth. For instance, the fact that our jails do not need to be crowded with a bunch of people that are just, doing weed. Okay, conservatives also acknowledge that. That is ridiculous. However, the reason why we are against weed being legalized is because we believe it's just a start. Studies show that cocaine related to the drug cartel, Mexican drug cartel specifically, has been by 22% according to CIA reports. How much you can look up online. It has been increased ever since we started legalizing pot in Colorado. My opinion is it will never stop. There will be another drug, and it will just keep on going. So we as conservatives, while we acknowledge that weed is less harmful than alcohol, we just say that on the principle of stopping it once and for all. In that sense, we say that you should not legalize weed. Also, we believe that weed makes people lazy. A lot of people would go, oh my goodness, the conservatives make people lazy. The studies have shown, Wall Street Journal, I'll cite this, weed takes away motivation. And if people who are saying on welfare, they can use their EBT cards, this has happened to people, I'm sorry if you don't know, they can go and get weed with it. This has happened. This is reality. So we would stand against that, and that is our position.
Yeah. Another point is that the war on drugs is given a monopoly on drugs to drug cartels, which are some of the most violent offenders in the world. And
Just like basically the monopoly that the drug cartels have, it makes drugs that much more dangerous because they're like putting extra stuff in there that it wouldn't normally be in. If it were in the open markets legalized, marijuana specifically, sliced with different harmful drugs when you get it through the black market, whereas if it was an open market, this stuff wouldn't exist. Sorry.
Just real quick, and like our libertarian friends here and the liberals said, we actually believe a good compromise would be if you want to eliminate the weed problem, attack the drug cartel. I believe all of us here could agree with that. I mean, fix the drug cartel problem, and then the weed problem would be less of a problem.
If we could just fix the drug cartel problem,
Yes.
we wouldn't be where we are today because we've been spending millions and millions of dollars on that, and we've made some progress, but not nearly enough. There's still endemic violence in towns where the drug cartels have hold in like Mexico border towns.
Secure our border.
At the same time, Rome was not built in a day. It's going to take more time.
And money. Government money.
Granted, but just legalizing it doesn't fix the problem. And at the same time, having so-called, when weed is being processed and made, the libertarians are saying that harmful drugs are put into them or spiced with them. Remind me again, what is a harmless drug?
there's a spectrum of harm. You'll have that even with prescription drugs.
My point for
So by that logic, all drugs should be illegal, including like Tylenol and stuff like that?
not necessarily, but if you look at the long-term effects of all drugs that you take, they do massive amounts of damage.
But in fairness, making them illegal does much more damage.
Not
you
entirely.
could look, just statistically speaking, since the war on drugs began in the 60s and 70s, the majority of those people have been coming from families, 75%, like I said, coming from low-income families. And when you look statistically at families who have grown up around people who've been to prison, there are so many more times likely to go to prison themselves, just growing up in that situation.
I guess, if we're talking about keeping people safe and safety, why are we promoting that people can have like big gulp drinks, which actually kill way more people due to obesity and heart disease than the drugs are?
Because a big gulp, unless you are drinking it and you're holding it with 2 hands, is not going to kill someone in the car. Like if you're high.
Any more comments? All right, let's move on. Next question. Should there be restrictions on voting eligibility? Starting with libertarians.
Okay, well, libertarians believe in the right to vote. We believe that Ellen should have the right to vote just as well as everyone else. And if you're contributing to society, I think you should be able to vote.
Conservative.
Okay, okay, so the main issue on this is obviously voter ID. Conservatives would stand in support of voter ID because it's one, constitutional. Europe does it. A lot of our liberal friends around the globe say that Europe does everything better than we do in many cases. I would say, look at Europe. They use voter ID to keep their elections honest. We say we do the same. Okay, it is a right to citizens, but how do you prove that right? Okay, let's keep it reality here. It also keeps illegal immigrants from voting if you have voter ID, and that's a problem. As Thomas Sowell, a very famous black economist from the 1960s, said, it is not hard, nor does it take a long time to get a voter ID. And he lived in Harlem, New York. Okay, it's not hard. Jesse Jackson said blacks and other minorities are just not capable of acquiring a voter ID. That is very condescending, and I would find it very offensive when I was black or a minority. Not capable. What nonsense is this? You need an ID to drive, to fly, to buy a beer, to buy a gun, and even to purchase some cold medicines. So you should have an ID to vote. I need my time.
They're close.
Voting is a fundamental right in the system of government we have, and if we're going to have any restrictions, they need to be applied proportionately. In 2012, with the Romney-Obama election, we had our Republican Pennsylvania House Majority Leader saying how the past voter ID laws that they just had were going to help them win because it was going to keep the Democratic voters and usually minorities from voting. So if we're going to have some good restrictions, maybe we can have mandatory voting like countries like Australia have. But either way, if we want to get pathways to voting and citizenship for, through military and other things for immigrants, we can. But we should be trying to use voter ID laws to keep people from voting, which is why they were made.
Conservatives.
Direct response to that, when you're saying that the Republicans are using this to gain more votes, I would say it's the exact opposite. They're actually trying to get you less votes because illegal immigrants know that Democrats are for amnesty, so they will vote Democrat. So that is why if there's a voter ID, you will have less votes. Give my time.
And I would say that you're looking at that from the context is that I would agree with my conservative counterpart on this, and saying that they're trying to prevent Elvis Presley, Mickey Mouse from voting for the Democrats.
Well, with that,
topic wouldn't come up.
Well, the question is, how big is the voter fraud problem? And how big is the problem of legal citizens not being able to vote because they don't have access to a legal ID?
Once again, I refer you to what I said earlier about minorities being just as capable of getting an ID as we.
It's not just minorities, it's elderly people and who aren't able to.
Most,
Mobility is limited.
the biggest group of people that vote in this country are elderly.
That's a sad thing. I don't know. Who vote?
Is that the experiences voting? Is this your
A lot more people should be voting.
Yeah, oh, I agree. I agree.
You become conservative with age.
That being said, let us move on. Next question. What are the government's responsibilities concerning the affairs and policies of other countries concerning war? Let's start with the libertarians.
It's none of our business what happens outside of our country. You know, it's none of our business. Yeah.
Please finish.
I don't think I need to elaborate more, but
Okay, that's not liberals?
So the reality is that the United States is one of the most powerful nations on earth, whether we like it or not. And other countries, even Europe, which is pretty highly developed, look to us for economic and political guidance. So the U.S. has a responsibility to keep a balance between don't swing full toward isolationism, nor towards full-blown interventionism, because national sovereignty should be respected. But liberals would argue that there are some situations in which humanitarian interests and sometimes correlating with national interests trump sovereignty.
Okay, conservatives you seem eager to share.
Unlike our libertarian counterparts, we've tried to stay out of conflict. Just look at World War II and World War I. We tried to stay out, and what happened? We were attacked both times. So we kind of have a say in what's going on when it comes to war. Also, going off that, isolation doesn't really work that well. You're just running from the problem, and eventually it's going to catch up to you. So it's better to face the problem now, get it over with. And at the same time, we are a great power. The United States is, I would venture to say, the #1 world power currently. And with that power comes great responsibility. You don't need Spider-Man's uncle to tell you that.
Any more comments?
I would also add that wars and interventions based solely on protecting national interests are not justified. I would say that humanitarian interests have to be taken into account as well.
Libertarian.
yeah. Okay. In response to my conservative counterpart, we did nothing to stay out of World War II. We were supplying the European allied powers with weapons and with weapons. We did nothing to stay out. We used Pearl Harbor as an excuse to get in. In regards to the comment about isolationism, look at Switzerland. Switzerland. What was that? No, they didn't. Switzerland is the sovereign nation for over 500 years. And in regards, in regards to my liberal friends, we can't protect our national interests with war. We can only go to protect humanitarian interests. Really? We can't.
I would be the
defend
first to
ourselves?
admit that the reality is far from that ideal.
So the reality, yeah. So I mean, if we're defending ourselves, war is justified on our soil. We're going. I think, yeah.
So,
People will always debate, like, what is defending ourselves? What is offensive? What is unjust? What is just?
okay,
So,
I believe things that are just are like the Korean War. If we did not help out South Korea, we wouldn't have Koreans here today. They would still be part of communist Korea. So I believe that it is with great power comes great responsibility, and that we should use that power to help other nations who are in trouble of communism.
But why is that our business? If they would,
Because we, as Christians, we should want to help out people who are in peril. If I was a citizen in South Korea during the Korean War, I would be thanking Jesus that the Americans showed up. And this is just my opinion. This is not fact, this is my opinion. Okay? Let's clarify that. This is my opinion. So I respect yours, but this is
There goes.
Okay, so if you're looking at democracy building, I think we have a lot, 10 years of experience with that, and it didn't really work out. You have to make sure people want you there, and they want your democracy before you start doing it.
Historical fact, both Vietnam and South Korea directly asked for our help. That is a fact. Look up your history books.
Any more comments?
yeah, I would also like to add that our continued involvement in the Middle East, going back before the Iraq wars of the early 2000s, the CIA has started group after group to defeat those they previously started.
We will agree with that. That is true.
So let's stop and save ourselves money. We don't have money.
I was hoping you'd go into Israel.
No.
Okay, it's not happening.
So
No.
All right, let's move on. Should we take notice of executive overreach? What is the appropriate role of the executive branch? Are executive orders justified? Let's start with sir.
Okay, we will say that we believe that executive overreach is kind of up to the interpreter. Some people, for instance, Republicans and Democrats have both been doing this. Both are guilty of it, and both are to your interpretation of whether or not they were justified in doing it. We believe that if it's an abuse, then that is an abuse, and that's how clear cut it is. If it's abuse, executive power can be abused. I mean, that's really about it.
Terrence.
Yeah, well, we basically agree with our conservative counterparts that the executive branch should stick to its constitutionally defined role in governing, basically executing the law.
Liberals.
Well, the Constitution is pretty vague on what the exact power of the executive office is, but it is important to note that over the 20th century, both Democratic and Republican presidents have greatly expanded that power. So, based on legal precedents, Obama's recent actions, which we're all thinking about, have a strong legal precedence. But on the other hand, I will say that it is healthy to question and explore what are the boundaries with regard to executive power. And of course, you should take notice of executive overreach. But like the conservative said, there's some interpretation of what is overreach.
Folks, I think we all just agree on something.
Moving on. What is the solution to the current immigration issue? Let's start with liberals. Yes.
Okay then. Well, there's been a lot of talk about what to do with the illegal immigrants that exist here, but I think there should be more talking about our immigration process as it stands. Because I think that, well, we believe that someone who wants to come to America and is willing to contribute to the economy and pay taxes and all that should be able to get here in a fairly straightforward process. But the reality is that is not at all what happens. It's incredibly complicated. You need a lawyer. We should streamline that. So it's people who want to come here can come here.
Libertarians.
The purely libertarian perspective of immigration is that there should be open borders, that immigrants or people in general should be able to come and go as they please. They should be restricted by that. We believe in a free market society, in that it doesn't just include financial capital, it also includes human capital. That being said, a more conservative libertarian perspective would be to secure the borders and also give amnesty to people inside already. But yeah.
Conservative.
Okay, so I would agree with both of my counterparts that immigration needs some fixing, but also, as a Hispanic, my view on immigration is that giving amnesty to those that are inside, quite frankly, let's put it in simple terms, they cut in line in front of everybody else. So should we really be giving them what they want, or just saying, hey, get in line. You go through the process like everybody else. Yes, it takes time, and yeah, it takes a long time. But until we can come up with a better solution, this is the way it is for now.
Any more comments?
I guess the liberal position would take more of a human interest type of view on that and say that there are families that are split and really struggle, and in every other sense, they are American in that they contribute to the economy and they pay taxes, but because they came here legally, which maybe they shouldn't have done, but they're here, they're contributing,